We certainly are, and the game has already begun, so we're going to jump straight into match number 1 of this first set of the best-of-3 series, and already we can see the draft that came out from the analyst desk. Both teams drafting fairly well to go into game number 1.
Yeah, I'm actually quickly just writing it down. I haven't seen anything of this, so yes, the game is currently live, but I didn't peek, I didn't look at the draft, so this is brand new just to us as well.
So let's get straight into that match already. Vici taking on LGD from the LGD arena at Hangzhou. So we're rushing straight into this match after that last set.
Yeah, and we can quickly take a look at the team compositions as I'm seeing them for the first time.
Yeah, so we can see, already starting this match here, LGD already lost a kill going over towards Vici. As you see, the jungler's been taken out. Kha'Zix was able to pick that one up, and it seems like a solo kill came out from Swift, the new jungler, the new addition for Vici earlier. Now with the work of Easy here, and they're going to try and get a dive going on the top side of the map.
Yeah, pulling a little bit of an icon. The analyst desk was talking about it very early on in the first game, even though OMG just got thrashed by Suning. This was the icon special of using the dematerializer and then looking for early roams on Rise. And what's curious here is that it's Easy Hoon of all people doing it. My main criticism of Easy Hoon is that he has a very low kill participation in the LPL right now, and he really doesn't like to leave his team, even when his team dramatically needs him. So already we're seeing a very different look from Vici, like first blood, Easy Hoon leaving his lane, winning lanes, the fact that Martin was given that Caitlyn into the Ezreal matchup, so having push potential there, even though Imp can have the trade potential onto him if he gets set up correctly on the minion wave. This is already a very different look than the constantly losing lanes Vici we see before.
Which is a good start that Vici desperately need. Their last match, 2 matches ago when they played against TOP seemed to be their best chance to pick up a win during the cross-conference. Arguably, LGD is their next best bet. They are just in front of TOP in their group at the moment. However, even though LGD are second last in that conference, they have had some rough games recently.
And ultimately, when you look at the games versus the series, LGD are only a single game away from Suning, who are qualified into the playoff position. So yes, LGD, they're not sitting too pretty in the standings, but it's simply because of their inability to translate game wins or map wins into series wins. We're still seeing that flash of brilliance that we see from the old 2015 LGD. It's just far and few between.
We'll have to see if they can keep it up. Vici are still eyeing for their first win so far. Top side of the map, no early advances towards the gangplank. No attempt to try and shut down Juno besides the early roam we saw from Swift as well as Easy Hoon. So he's sitting up there nice and comfortable, just trying to farm up as much as he can against Sion, which is seen resurging as a top lane pick in the current meta.
And there's simply nothing you can do against Sion. He sits there, he's a giant brick wall. That said, Gangplank I would say would probably be one of the best matchups into Sion, just because he's kind of like New Orange. Sion's always going to have you pushed in. There's nothing you could do to kill him. He's got plenty of CC on his kit, but what are you going to do against Gangplank? If he gets pushed in, he's just going to farm with the Klepto underneath that tower and end up with ridiculous amounts of gold.
Yeah, it's going to farm that one up. LGD really trying to bank on the late game with 2 Kleptomancies being run on the top side of the map for the Gangplank, one in the bottom lane for Ezreal. And we can already see, despite the fact that it is a Caitlyn Alistar lane, it's going to be Imp and PYL who are pushing in quite aggressively, already forcing Martin to back by himself there.
And it could be, again, we didn't get to see the very beginning of this, but looking at the spawns, it looks like it was a red start from Amy. And so what probably happened is that Martin and Caveman were forced to leash for their jungler, so Swift could get a tempo lead and then invade Sejuani when she came to do her blue buff, and that's where the first blood probably came down from. But what that means is that Imp and PYL got the initial rotation onto the wave and set up Ezreal for trading success, because while Caitlyn does have very long range, Ezreal can match that as long as he's able to trade with his Mystic shot.
Swift now looking to try and see if he can make an attempt to move down towards the bottom side of the map. Both solo laners at the top and the mid lane are currently locked in the middle of their respective lanes, so it's just going to be a bottom side of the map fight. Amy gets a good stun going down towards Swift, but they turn it around. Sejuani gets melted instantly. Martin's trying to place down a couple of traps to stop the retreat from PYL, but he will jump and flash away. Another kill being picked up by Vici.
And this is the big thing. It's the fact that Swift does have that blue timer and constantly using aggression from Caveman and Martin to try to punish that. Unfortunately, resets the blue buff right there, but again, a very dramatic, different look from Vici, and it's really from Swift's fingerprint on this team.
Yeah, and he just got picked up. He played in their match against TOP, did not have too much of an impact in that game, but now he's been able to pick up first blood, which unfortunately we were not able to see, and making those proactive attempts, not only to go for that dive top side of the map, which didn't pan out, but now actively invading against the blue buff, picking up another kill for the team. Now Easyhoon, though, getting collapsed on by Amy as well as Yuki pops his ultimate, and the stopwatch will get back to safety.
Yeah, it's still 8.2, so that change has not been adjusted for Rise right now. We're going to see plenty of stopwatch escapes from Easyhoon on this Rise. Kind of going back to Swift, though, it's interesting. He's played 6 games with Vici so far. He played 3 games with RNG, 3 games against TOP. Did I say that, though? A hold up?
Yeah, he's going to get some damage with Yuki in the mid lane, but he's perfectly fine. And there's Swift again.
And the thing is looking at his stats, he actually has one of the highest CP or CS per minute of any junglers. He has a higher CS per minute than SOFM. Like, think about that for a second.
I mean, SOFM times every single jungle camp.
Exactly. The only junglers who have a higher CS per minute than Swift are junglers that haven't played, you know, they're rotating junglers like Tien and Hacker, people like that. And yes, Swift doesn't have the most games in the LPL, but 6 is about half as many as every other jungler. And from his stats, you'd seem to think that he's, you know, really about farming, trying to find that individual strength, and then translating that strength later on down the road into team fighting strengths. But again, a very different look from Swift. You know, you kind of flip a coin. Sometimes you're going to get the AFK intentional feeder Swift, and sometimes you're going to get that hard carry, invading the jungles, getting the timers, and leading the charge Swift. And it looks like Vici rolled right today.
Yeah, it seems like they're getting that leading the charge Swift today, and it's really important for how they used to play. Especially historically, Vici were a very top-focused side of the team. Martin and Caveman have not had the best of splits so far, as we could see earlier, just from Imp and PYL being able to push them in with the Ezreal Brawl matchup.
I mean, we say that, and I do agree that Martin, unfortunately, he's just frankly outclassed by pretty much every other ADC in the region. Not his fault. The region is stacked with superstar talent, but he's still doing his job for Vici. He has 32% of their damage share. He is the largest portion of the damage share, and so yes, he's the AD carry, that makes sense, but he's at least putting up the numbers that he needs to. He sits right in the middle of the pack in terms of stats for other AD carries. In fact, he has the same CS difference at 10 that Imp does.
Which is important for Vici, as that bridges them into the late game, but now they're going for a gank onto PYL again. No flash available from the early invade that comes out from Swift. He makes a return, a gank down into the bottom lane. He's able to pick up a kill, and Vici are going to put on some pressure towards the bottom lane out of turret.
And frankly, it's just looking easy how Caveman and Swift are tag teaming Imp and PYL in this bottom lane. And not only that, but then it's led to a massive pressure advantage as the ward goes down behind the tower. Meow does have his teleport available, and now Vici have full control in terms of tempo in this bot lane.
PYL even swaps out his summoner spell for teleport to get down into that bottom lane a little bit quicker and defend the bottom lane out of turret. Yuki tried to roam down to protect his bottom lane as well if Vici went for any form of a dive down there.
And you can see Yuki, he's feeling the pressure. He's like trying to take off his sweatshirt and keep both hands on the keyboard, quickly shedding that skin. Like, it's intense, guys. I'm starting to sweat.
For 10 minutes into this match, Vici being able to pick up 3 kills, 1,000 gold ahead of LGD, so a very good start for this roster.
And it might be one more, as we see Easyhoon looking for the roam, does have the Realm Warp available to him. But I think Jinnu caught that from the ward up in that brush on top of red.
Moves very quickly in between his top lane inner and outer turret.
It never stops!
But now they're going to try and get a gank going on towards Yuki in the mid lane. Oh, Caveman trying to flash in for the headbutt, pulverized, but just a little bit out of range from the Orianna.
And Easyhoon's having a good chuckle about that. Of course, it always looks funny when Alistar doesn't get into the range of the W and just throws the pulverize for no reason, but it was very clear intent from Caveman, and I sound like a broken record, but this is not what we see from Vici. If this is your first time taking a look at this team in the LPL, normally we call Vici the death by 1,000 paper cuts. They're a very slow, methodical team. They like to take tiny little micro advantages and then just kind of slowly snowball that advantage. They're not a big, aggressive, burst-heavy team, but that hasn't been the case. They sit 0-9 right now in the LPL simply because they draft losing lanes, they don't move from their losing lanes, and they just kind of observe themselves passively losing the game.
As for LGD, they started off the split not too strong themselves, but they had an impressive run at their home stadium. It's only been recently where they've been dropping games again against a very, very tough schedule. Yuki in the mid lane taking a ton of damage from Swift. He's still going for it, flashes forward, avoids the ultimate as well. Amy can't quite lock him down with his own ultimate, and Easyhoon's going to try and keep Swift alive. Still trying to trace through on towards the jungler. Junu's going to try and jump down here as well, but LGD can't find the momentum to catch up towards the rest of Vici.
3-0-1, 100% kill participation on Swift. He saw the Orianna without the flash, he forced it, and unfortunately not a single shockwave or Sejuani ult connected with the Kazakhs there. LGD are frankly getting slaughtered right now in this early game. And the thing is this is usual for LGD. So while this is a very different look from Vici, LGD typically do lose their lanes. They're ranked #1 in the LP right now in terms of towers not taken by 20 minutes. So Clement made the joke, I think, on the desk saying that LGD like to lose lanes simply so they can get out of the lane phase faster and then start brawling. I don't think that's necessarily their strategy, but it is definitely the identity that they have in the LPL right now. So hopefully they're able to get out of these lanes and stop some of this bleeding.
No, Swift, he's found Yuki again. Will get knocked back by the shockwave this time around. Amy gets some good damage. Stopwatch is used to keep himself alive, and Amy completely runs away. EasyHoon, however, going to try and chase down Yuki. Cleanse used instantly by Orianna to get away.
But this could potentially be a dive. The only thing that I think is stopping it is the fact that Caveman left the lane. EasyHoon doesn't have ultimate, but he has plenty of mana, and I don't know. I think the only thing that might stop them here is the threat of GP ultimate, but I think they're just going to push it down and take the tower for free.
They could potentially take first turret with 4 kills to none. Really good stuff for Vici so far. LGD are going to end that laning phase nice and early. Now the question is, how can they get back into this match? Because Vici, with their newfound jungler and Swift, look unstoppable to start this game.
Yeah, but now they need to carry that over into the mid game. The thing is that if you give Vici tempo, if you give them control of the map, they have always consistently been a very intelligent team. We call them the brains, not brawn of the LPL. I mean, this roster at some point over the last 2 years that they've been in the LPL have had 4 world champions on them. Dandy, Mata, Bengi, and EasyHoon, the last one left standing. They've always been a very intelligent team. It's kind of about finding the talent to go with their intelligence.
And we give a lot of criticism towards EasyHoon throughout the multiple splits, but he's stuck around with the team for the longest time, all the way from when he first joined Vici when they were in the LPL down to when they dropped into the LSPL. Now that they've qualified back into the LPL, he's still with the squad and constantly trying to adapt his playstyle as well.
Yeah, credit where credit is due. EasyHoon and Imp have really made themselves career LPL players. Like you said, EasyHoon going through those trials, he says in our LPL intro, if you guys have ever seen it, you know, everyone loves to see legends rise, but no one really wants to watch the sweat and tears that it takes to get there. EasyHoon has forged himself in this region after leaving the LCK, and unfortunately hasn't found the same success that Imp has had.
No, he has not. Imp, however, he has not had a few good splits with LGD so far. This is starting to be one of the better starts for Imp and PY on the bottom lane, who have become quite a strong duo themselves recently.
Although we need to talk about what's about to happen in the top lane.
Yeah, PYL is going to get locked down. Takes plenty of damage as Rise will teleport towards the top side of the map. LGD get their support chunked, and Vici again looking to take more objectives.
But here comes some sort of counterplay. We do have Shockwave available, and the ultimate finally connects to someone.
A lockdown EasyHoon, but Amy's not able to get any follow-up on the back of that. Swift finds Yuki, gets some chip damage with the Kha'Zix.
But the important thing is that Yuki did hold on to the Shockwave, so didn't use it out of panic and desperation defensively. Does mean that LGD have enough massive cooldowns to dissuade Vici Gaming from pushing.
Still has granted Vici Gaming 2,000 gold over LGD. Top lane outer turret is very low. A couple more waves would allow Vici to push that one down.
Yeah, and basically what Swift's doing is he went back, he cleared out his jungle. I thought he was going to look at Scuttle Crab, but now he's kind of determining, do I go for Rift Herald, am I diving mid lane, or am I immediately just going to run top? He's got a wealth of options before him, and it looks like he's committing to mid.
There's even a ton of pressure in the mid lane as Yuki's been pushed back in, coming out from Vici. He's forced to go back to base and heal up. Top lane outer turret is going to fall. Mid lane outer turret is fairly low. And Vici are controlling this map very well. LGD just can't quite catch a break. Still relying to see if they can scale up in towards that late game.
But scale with what? If you look at the compositions, Vici's comp will outscale LGD. Late game, the thing that they're going to be banking on is effectively that bank plank. He's either going to have to hit a massive crit alongside a massive shockwave, but as this game goes past, 30, 35 minutes, Vici are just going to sprint out ahead of LGD, and LGD aren't going to stay within touching distance in terms of how these comps scale.
Vici relentless, even picking up Rift Herald. Swift makes his way down to that objective with the help of his bottom lane.
And while the early game has been very un-Vici, this is very stereotypical Vici. They are great at identifying exactly what objective they need to prioritize on the map. They took down the bottom lane using the rotations from EasyHoon. That pressure then moved up into the top lane, pulling that down, gave them Rift Herald control, and now they're going to start setting up for their mid play to crack that tower. Because it is in Orianna, they'll probably have to use the Rift Herald to do so, but then once that's opened up, the world is Vici's, and they can start playing around that Baron in between the dragon spawns.
But the laning phase has effectively ended so far, and this is where LGD really start to shine as well. They like to go for the mid-game brawls. They like to try and pick unorthodox and weird fights against their opponents, so to speak. But now they're 3,000 gold behind. Those fights are just going to get even more difficult.
Which is why these champions are important for LGD, because I agree with you. We often use the word brawling. I'm going to use the term hit and run. They are very 2v2, 3v2, 1v1s, these type of dueling scenarios. A lot of it is because PYL likes to face check, exactly as he did right there. But it means that champions like Sejuani, Braum, Tom Kinch, these CC champions that can gap close onto people or have non-committal CC are kind of the bread and butter of LGD.
Swift is controlling the bottom side of the jungle incredibly well. Makes another move towards LGD's blue buff. We'll be able to take that one away from LGD as well.
I don't think they've gotten a single blue buff, because it was an invade on the first one. We don't know if he got it, but he definitely punished Sejuani and took the kill. But the last two blue buff spawns, Swift has completely controlled, and they've used that timer to abuse Vici. But the wave is prepped. Yuki is forced off of it. No one is in position. They have a GP ultimate, but the tower might be down without Rift Herald.
Especially with Caitlyn's massive range, they're going to be able to chip away at this turret shot by shot, and it is going to fall. Vici have taken out all of the outer turrets away from LGD.
And the terrifying thing is, again, that they still have the Rift Herald in their back pocket. You can see Swift using the Empowered Recall right now onto your screen, which means that the Rift Herald automatically gets to translate into being used on an inner structure. So Vici are snowballing this game very quickly. Why that's important is check out Caitlyn's itemization. This is a 18-minute Caitlyn with a completed Infinity Edge as well as a static Shiv. She's always going to have the pushing pressure. She's always going to match anything that you throw at her, and now she's combat ready and just a single attack speed item away from being a devastating force. Vici have effectively almost hurtled directly over Caitlyn's power trough.
And looking across from Caitlyn, Imp, who's playing Ezreal at the moment, picks up the Collector Man, so you expect him to pick up a very early game as well as mid-game power spike with his items, but he's still just sitting on the Iceborne Gauntlet as well as the Man Immune. That is yet to be completely upgraded into the Mirror Mana, and just as Ionian Boots of Lucidity. On top of that, Rise completing his Rod of Ages, Ceres Embrace completed as well, and Swift, who's been in every single kill in this game, has 2 completed damage items.
Yeah, Swift's a big deal. Who's not a big deal is Yuki. And that Orianna is sitting on a completed Morellos, and that's about it. And without any access to blue buff, it means that she's unable to clear these waves to slow down Vici's siege composition at all. So the denial of blue buffs is actually a big piece of why this composition is working so well for Vici, because there's nothing LGD have to punish it. They're effectively just waiting for some sort of form of hard CC to hit, and if it does it, they can't stop them.
Even the times we've seen Amy being able to hit the hard crowd control like his ultimate on Sejuani, they have not had enough to follow up, or the position to follow up for a team fight that is favorable for LGD. LG are forced to use the Rift Herald to the mid lane, gets a charge onto the mid lane in the turret, and chunks it down to about half health, and immediately rotate to take an Ocean Dragon. They have controlled this map away from LGD.
Yeah, but I'm going to give them a solid 2 out of 5 on that Rift Herald usage. I feel like it could have been access for more if they grouped up, if they controlled their waves a little bit better. So that is a slight reprieve for LGD, is that the fact that the Rift Herald didn't crack one of those inner towers.
And Swift again trying to be a bit cheeky with his invades here. Will get locked down by
Good
Amy
flash.
as well as Yuki, but jumps away. Still going to get hit by double crowd control and does get taken down. Gameplay picks up that kill. Caveman forced to use his own ultimate as traps are placed down by Martin to stop the chase coming out from LGD. They finally get themselves on the scoreboard.
And that's the first hit and run from LGD, a 4v2 as they catch Swift off guard. It was a brilliant flash, but unfortunately not enough to get him to safety. Unfortunately for LGD, all it really translates into is, I think, 2 waves, 1 mid, 1 top lane, and then clearing some of that offensive, aggressive vision from Vici in their jungle. So they've gained back some of their neutral footing, but they're not able to push forward or advance the game in their favor.
Just slowing the game down a little bit. Swift was the big playmaker for Vici, so taking him off the map, even for just a minute, is going to allow LGD some breathing room, but they're still not back in this game quite yet. It's still 3,000 gold lead for Vici, and they still control majority of this map.
A majority of that gold lead is actually between the mid laners, and that's, of course, because of the CS. This is closing in on a Flame Horizon, about 30 CS away from EasyHoon, from just completely eclipsing Yuki. And the fact that he has a massive advantage in what is usually a favorable matchup for Orianna. You know, Rise is a mid-range mage. Orianna, with her ball, can outrange him, can try to control the tempo of that lane, but EasyHoon's been far more successful in the ganks. Even though he's sitting 0-0 and 0, his pressure of moving around the map has been felt across every lane, and then with a huge CS lead, that's a massive gold difference that's opening up.
And for the side of LGD, yes, Imp is still even with Martin when it comes to gold, but their saving grace is Jinnu, who picked up that single kill for the team with the Gangplank ultimate. He is about 1,500 gold ahead of Meow, and that Gangplank is going to continue scaling up. Already 2 items complete, Trinity Force as well as the gauntlets picked up for Gangplank, and slowly Jinnu is going to be able to dish out massive amounts of damage from the top lane.
Which means that LGD, they're basically hanging off the cliff with their little fingers, and they're starting to lose grip, but they just gotta hang there for about 10 more minutes. They just need that Gangplank to be a big factor. And Sion can't do anything to him to the side lane, so he's going to continue to get bigger. So LG right now are in this tug of war with Vici, where they don't want control over the Baron, because it's on the onus is on Vici to start it. They just want to make sure that they stop it.
Vici are working hard to try and control the top side of the map. You can see Swift staying inside the red buff of LGD's jungle, spots out Amy again. Yuki and PYL are waiting in the wings just in case he tries to be a bit too aggressive with his invades.
It's going to be some musical chairs about who's taking their back. No, it's Yuki's shift this time around, or excuse me, Imp's shift this time around. Should be Yuki's next. He's running low on mana, but LGD unfortunately are going to constantly be on guard duty over this area, and they're always going to have about 2 to 3 members just kind of peeking in, using their sweepers, trying to inch forward.
And still waiting very patiently, Swift and Caveman, I should say. Almost as if they want this red buff to spawn, but they've been there for about 1.5 minutes and nothing has spawned on the top side of the map. Now it's going to come back up, but Jinnu's being caught in this mid lane. Caveman's able to get a good headbutt, pulverized knock-up, but he eats an orange and flashes away. LGD stays safe once again.
Jinnu, very fortunate that Sion wasn't directly in the mid lane and instead was off to the side. That was one Sion ultimate away from a dead Gangplank, and he's their biggest deterrent right now from starting the Baron, since Orianna is still trying to inch towards that blue buff. But Jinnu getting a little bit greedy means that he's forced to burn his flash.
A much slower pace of the match so far should favor LGD at the moment, who want to try and catch up. They want to slow the pace of the game down and take it a little bit later, but Vici, they've upped the pressure trying to take this Baron buff.
And Vici haven't set this up correctly, which is why I'm happy that they're disengaging from it. They didn't have the control ward onto the pit. It does mean that it would turn into a 50-50, so they smartly stopped. Now they're looking for a pick. So again, as soon as they get that pick, it's going to be a very easy realm warp either to secure the pick or back into the Baron pit to try to burn it. But this should be a single back. You can see that the support's doing it right now, refreshing the wards, picking up some more control wards, and then Vici are finally going to get that chokehold around that Baron pit and try to force the objective.
But LGD are playing it right as well. Jinnu's able to push out the bottom lane to secure a red buff for themselves and successfully stop Vici from taking the Baron buff, allowing themselves to go back to base, once again pick up a few bits and pieces of the items they need.
And what LGD are also doing really well is the windows that they're using to clear their waves so they can continue to contest around the Baron pit area. You can see that PYL and Amy have now quickly moved into the area to clear out a lot of the vision that Vici have placed down. Ocean Drake is spawning in 1 minute. So again, it's identifying these key tiny windows that they have to slip in, lay down their vision, and then get the hell out of Dodge.
Martin even delaying his build slightly here, picks up his second Zeal, but went for the Hex Drinker first, trying to deny some damage from the shockwave that comes out from Orianna.
I don't know if I necessarily always agree with translating your gold into defensive stats, especially when you find a snowball like this. I mean, there's merits both ways. The idea is that you're already on the clock for your core itemization and your attack speed item, as well as your BF item. So she's got her crit, she has her attack speed. So why not use the extra gold that you have just to have the defensive stats? I'm personally more of the favor, though, that you just continue to snowball and complete your, triple core itemization as quickly as possible, especially when you are Caitlyn and you have that range as your safety net, but maybe giving a lot more respect to Yuki.
And you add that extra range as well when you complete that third core item of what is usually a rapid fire cannon. But instead, Martin playing it a little bit safe here with the Hex Ring. We'll have to see if it pays out for him. But again, Vici are going back to the strategy of waiting around the red buff and trying to get as much vision inside the top side of LGD's jungle.
Because the fear always is that if you don't snowball and if you use that item defensively and then it's never made use effectively, then you just wasted, 1,300 gold. And then any sort of gold difference, and it's, 45k to 42k means nothing.
It has allowed him to pick up his 3 core items though. Blade of the Rune King already complete for the Ezreal, and his Mirror Mana is completely stacked into a Mana Mune.
Also has the Ice-Sprung Gauntlet. It's always the big thing. Of course, it's one of the first items he completes, but it means that there is some sort of wave clear other than the Orion.
Martin, though, gets pulled back. Yuki finds the shockwave he was looking for. He's forced to flash away. And even though he had the Hex Trigger there, that is still very scary for Vici.
Yeah, see, Martin knew. He's like, I'm definitely going to walk directly into a shockwave. Credit to Yuki, it was cleverly placed over the wall and brilliantly done. Tried to use the net to get out of it, but it's lucky he had it. Probably would have gotten popped like a balloon.
And this is a bit scary because this is where Vici tend to shine. When they get that good early game going, they get out of the laning phase ahead of their opposition. This is where they're meant to be good. But so far it's been the early game where Vici have been dominant against LGD, and LGD are stalling them out every step of the way since 20 minutes in this match.
And just like the Hex Shrinker, it's simply Vici giving a bit too much respect. You know, playing it a little bit cautiously, playing respectfully to LGD. They want to make sure that they get the perfect Baron before they start it, because one of the big windows back into this game for LGD, of course, is going to be a Baron steal. But there's a massive level difference between Swift.
Oh, there certainly is. 13 to 11.
Which means a stronger smite. So I wish Vici would find a bit more confidence. I understand if you're sitting 0-9, you want to play a textbook perfect game of League of Legends. You don't want to throw away a lead that you've acquired like you did in this game with a risky play. But there's still other options for Vici on the map. They could try to take full control over the Ocean Drake, for one.
And Swift is not just 2 levels above Amy. He has 3 kills up. Has 50 CS more than the Sojourner as well. He's been able to show that he can chunk out multiple members from LGD if he gets his hands on them nice, and if they're isolated as well inside of LGD's jungle.
But right now, Jinnu is instead going to just take the dragon for himself, the smite assist from Amy, and a dragon that should be Vici's, because they should just have control over the map, is given away, and this is your go button.
Yeah, Vici try to use that, the knowledge of Amy down on the bottom side of the map, knowledge that Amy's trying to help out with the dragon to try and start their attempt at Baron here. Yuki is over the wall, throws the ball over. Can he get the steal? Amy's going to flash in, does not get there. K-Fan denies him, and Vici pick up the Baron. PYL forced to flash over the traps. It's going to get locked down by the Alistar's. Meow will charge into the gameplay. Shockwave only connects onto the tank, but Vici are slowly losing their front line. Jinnu now wants to charge him, but he runs straight into 3 members of Vici, and LGD are still trying to cut this one back. First casualty is going to be the gameplay as the rest of LGD try to run back to their base.
And suddenly this game has split open for Vici. That was the opening that they needed. They didn't take the Ocean Drake because it turned out that they were using it as a lure. It was the trap that had been sprung by LGD. They saw that they could burn the Baron quickly enough, and now it's Baroned up and 4 members charging down LGD's mid.
Their patience pays off as Vici not only able to take the Baron, but 2 turrets now looking to try and work at this inhibitor. LGD are trying to rush back down the mid lane to stop Vici from taking that next objective.
And I'm sure Clement must be feeling pretty happy about his call that this could be Vici's first series win in the LPL. We'll see if LGD have anything left. Sejuani's getting chunked.
Yeah, PYL gets chunked out as well. Amy almost falls, lives with less than 10 hit points as Vici force him back to the fountain once again. They pick up the mid lane inhibitor, now rotating down to the bottom side of the map to try and take bottom lane inner turret.
And it's because they're chipping away so much at these health bars that Vici are able to kind of inch out a little bit more. Just again, those paper cuts coming through. They don't take down the bottom tower. The bottom tower.
But here was that team fight again. LGD were a bit too slow to get to this Baron, and Jinnu just waltzes into the entire team.
Yeah, and unfortunately it was also a shockwave that was used on a single member, the tankiest one, Meow, on that Scion. So when you have, you know, multiple massive cooldowns that aren't finding key targets, of course you're just going to get slaughtered in that team fight.
And I was actually fairly wrong to criticize Jinnu there, because Swift was running in with the stealth, had no idea Kha'Zix was about to pop up right behind him, and allowed Vici to pick up that single pick after getting the objective. Now they're about 7,000 to 8,000 gold ahead of LGD. Really trying to turn on the heat, up the pressure, and look to try and close out this game and put themselves one step closer to picking up their first victory in the LPL this year.
And a question that we also had of Top Sports Gaming is this idea of, with these new roster acquisitions, you know, week 5 of the LPL, we're literally halfway through the split, and you go and make an acquisition and a change-up by grabbing Marn if you're TOP or grabbing Swift if you're Vici. What is the actual new skill ceiling? Because naturally, you know, there's some synergy issues to work out, there's some communication issues to get them settled into the team. And for Vici, you know, if you get this type of look from Swift every single game, that's a much higher ceiling than what they started with.
Which is surprising, because this is the playstyle that we used to see Crash play. And when he was playing for 1907 Fenerbahce, 1907 Fenerbahce were so vocal about how Crash plays such a different style from him, which is aggressive like Swift, but they've caught out Jinnu again. Once again, Vici able to get that pick. But unlike Crash, Swift has been able to show that aggression, and it's turned into leads for Vici over and over again in this match.
Well, a big difference is that low-key, Swift is one of the best Mandarin-speaking Koreans in the region alongside Rookie and Doinby. Newbie had said it multiple times in interviews. Swift can give interviews in Mandarin, whereas you look at someone like Crash, you know, he didn't have necessarily the longevity or the tenure that Swift just has in the region, so there were still some communication issues. So it could just be that it's easier to understand what Swift's doing. It's easier to work around him. Likewise, he does have that veteran experience on Crash.
Well, it wasn't enough for Vici to pick up a win over TOP in their best-of-3 series. However, so far, good start against LGD. They're looking to try and close out this game. They've caught out PYL. They're going to get some good damage onto the spot. He's forced to flash away, but Swift gets that kill. Caveman even trying to charge in towards the back lines as Vici take down the bottom lane inhibitor turret, and are working on the inhibitor as well. LGD, 4-member strong, trying to defend their base, but slowly these structures are going to fall, and they have to put up a last stand sooner or later against Vici.
Yeah, 2 inhibs down, which means that Vici are probably just going to 5-man stack up into that top lane tower. Infernal Drake will be spawning a 143, so depending on if LGD with the power of Gangplank, Orianna, and Ezreal can wave clear and secure away from these 2 inhibs, we might see another fight over that Infernal. But right now, again, if LGD were just barely gripping onto that wall before, they're definitely like one hand right now, like a single finger keeping them from falling to death. Yeah,
but Vici's about to put down the boot and stomp onto those last remaining fingers as the top lane inhibitor turret is the last objective standing for them before they march towards the Nexus and the Nexus turrets. On top of that, Caitlyn has completed all 6 of her items. More of Malmortius and Lord Dominic's regards has been picked up for the incredibly long-range AD carry.
At 33 minutes, that's absurd! Yeah, closing in on over a 10k gold lead in favor of Vici. We talked about how even though Martin, you know, when you talk about all the great ADC talent of the LPL, Martin's name is never going to come up in that conversation. But his stats, if you look at him, are middle of the road. He's doing his job for Vici and just showcasing that, hey, when all of our lanes don't collapse and you actually give me the ability to come into a mid-game slightly ahead or even, I can be exactly what you need me to.
And that's exactly what's happened in this match, and that's what Vici tried to bank on. Especially historically, tried to help out that bottom lane as they approach 30 minutes, as they approach 35 minutes in the match. LGD there were trying to catch out Swift, does not work out. They use the ultimate coming out from Sejuani, try to find an opportunity to make their last stand. But Vici are playing this one very patiently once again.
Yeah, making sure that they're flooding LGD's base with 3 waves all at once. You can see Swift assisting Meow right there in the mid lane. And the thing is as soon as Swift is able to, Meow is able to break into that inhib, or the inhib line, the possibility of getting flanked by Sion is very terrifying. So that was the play that Vici were trying to set up there. Infernal Dragon has, however, spawned, so it's going to be a very easy call that, hey guys, let's just disengage, let's grab this Infernal at 34 minutes. It's going to mean a lot for us. Baron spawning in 1 minute. And if we really want to play it clean and calculated, we'll just wait for the Baron and then flood LGD one last time.
Imp was able to spot out that both Meow and Swift are working on this Infernal Dragon. The LGD are trying to, you know, position up, try to take or retake control over their red buff and red side of the jungle, but they're not able to do so. So Vici to play it nice and slow again. Take down the Infernal Dragon. Mid lane inhibitor has come back off. They're trying to reset and farm up the rest of the jungle monsters in both LGD as well as Vici's jungle.
And you can already see the assist ping went down from Vici on towards the Baron, so they're making their resets. They'll start walking towards the pit now if their ping is to be believed. On the other side, LGD do have a brief window where they can actually look to contest for this Baron. Their mid inhib, like you said, has come back up. It's just the bottom one. Jinnu has teleport. He has his ultimate. He's more than enough to make sure that that bot wave doesn't cause the base any problems. He'll insta-clear it. So Vici, again, have to set this up perfectly because there is the opportunity that LGD will not only fight for it, but at least attempt to steal.
That Baron buff is now respawn as well. You can see Amy is setting up to do just that. He has wards inside his red jungle. He's placed a ward in the back half of the Baron pit.
Now, of course, Vici could just decide that they're not going to even try for the Baron at all, and instead attempt to siege in on those inhibs once again. So still more plays available for Vici. They're still in the driver's seat naturally with that massive gold lead, but also because of just their map control in general.
They're actually setting up to try and see if they can go for a 5. Righteous Glory gets popped there by Caveman, but instantly slowed down by PYL. That's one initiation tool being burnt by Vici there. But once again, very patient play around this red buff on LGD side of the map coming out from Vici. looking to try and take the best fight they can against LGD, despite the fact that they're still 11,000 gold ahead of LGD.
This is actually the classic EDG comp, and it's just like that. Kha'Zix, with his ultimate, is able to proc the invisible passive on this side of the jungle, just moving in between the jungle brush. And so you can very quickly catch someone out as soon as you have control over this area. And in tandem with Alistar, it's pretty much an insta-combo.
Well, PYL forced to flash away again as Caveman tries to catch him out.
This was a composition that EDG heavily favored on the back end of 2017 in summer. And now we can see Vici. It's all about playing around in this area of the map, denying the vision, using the stealth from the Kha'Zix to find a squishy target, and then following it up with CC from Sion or Alistar.
Well, Meow tries to charge in. He doesn't get anyone with his ultimate, but they've caught out PYL once again. No flash available for the support means he's going to get taken down. Imp now has been collapsed upon. LGD are stuck between a rock and a hard place. The first target's going to be Yuki. Takes a chunk of damage, tries to turn around on Easy, but he just gets so many shields, and Martin gets so much damage down onto the backline. Swift is hopping, he's skipping, and he's jumping around, picks up a double kill as only Amy and Juno are left alive, forced to retreat to their fountain once again.
And it's both inhibs back up for LGD, but they don't have the wave clear, and Jinu also falls to cap it all off. I think Vici are just going to march through LGD's base.
Give that man a machine gun, because he does not need his sniper rifle at the moment. Charging into the back lines, Martin picks up another kill, and LGD just did not look like they were in this game at all. Vici, they controlled it all the way from first blood, all the way from the early plays that Swift made. They're able to pick up game one over LGD.
Being defined by Swift, their jungler there. Like you said, the early plays, the early invades. LGD never got a single blue buff that entire game unless they pillaged it off someone's dead body.
And that's not what you expect. We saw the scores come up right there. 0 and 9 for Vici at the moment. 3 and 5 for LGD. You don't expect such a dominant performance in game one from a team that is yet to pick up a victory in a best-of-3 series in the LPL so far.
The thing is, stylistically, LGD are one of the perfect teams for Vici to counter out. Vici like to play slower lanes. They typically lose their own lane phase, and so when they come across another team that also has a habit of losing lane phase, suddenly Vici aren't pressured for control. They can, play a slower style, even though that wasn't the case. They ramped up the speed a lot right then, but then move into that mid-game with a slight lead, or at least an even gold lead, and then just try to put their brawn to the test.
But at no point did it look like Vici were even going to lose those laning phases, because Swift just controlled the game so well. Amy was walked around the jungle. He was taken down on a solo kill by Swift to kick things off, and he made sure he made attempts not only in the top side of the map, but got Martin snowballing in the bottom lane as well.
And we can take a look at Swift's damage percentage right there. The only person who did more damage than Swift was Caitlyn, so a massive performance on that Kha'Zix. Not only stealing the buffs, controlling the tempo, but then transitioning that to be successful in teamfighting.
And it wasn't just a large amount of damage that Martin was able to overtake Swift. It was just about 3,000 damage that separated both the jungler and the AD carrier. 6-item Caitlyn who was able to snowball those late game team fights. And LGD, it just seemed like they didn't have a strategy almost coming into game number one.
You can see that through all of their drafts. This draft was not particularly special or poor from LGD. They never put together a strategy or some way that all of their pieces are supposed to fit together. They are not a fist, they are 5 fingers, and they're just trying to take eyes.
Well, it didn't work out in game number one for LGD. We'll have to see if they can swap things up heading into game two. But to break down that first match, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Vici Gaming.
I called it.
The game one win. Ooh, and you said this is the one that they have to win because, again, their competition does not get any easier moving on the way up. But we got to start at the beginning, all right? Draft was super big. Vici Gaming take blue side, and LGD, they pick themselves Gangplank Sejuani, get to the third rotation, and then pick Braum.
Yeah, this has been a huge criticism from me about LGD's draft. Any other team in that situation where they're staring down at Caitlyn, they would have picked the Varus because that actually ensures you a good laning phase. But we always see LGD try to pick champions for PYL. And I think this is twofold. Number one, I actually suspect that PYL doesn't have a very large champion pool. They ban away the Tom Kench. They take away Braum, like he pretty much has nothing left. He has to secure himself one of those picks. And the second thing is LGD, they really prioritize moving around the map and getting picks so much that they're willing to throw away the laning phase by not picking an AD carry right there, which is it just boggles the mind. That is one of my biggest draft peeves. You never want to do that. You never want to throw away a lane just so you can roam out of it.
And we see exactly what happens as a result of that, right? Like PYL gets locked down into his lane. I think you said it yourself when we were watching the game. He got segmented off from his team so many times, and Swift loves that kind of environment. The moment he can see someone out alone in the jungle with no one to help them, he pounces like a wild predator. And this guy just comes into Vici Gaming and he says, you know what? I'll give you this game. This one's on me.
Yeah, pretty much. And Swift, I have to congratulate him for playing off the bot lane because their bot side was so strong, he was able to control the blue buff as well, and that affected Yuki in turn. Basically, Yuki was down 50 CS in a matchup where he should have been winning by 12 minutes, and then he lost his mid lane tower again. So I think there's really good, smart drafting coming out. They gave Jinwoo the GP. They picked things that go really well into it. The Caitlyn, you're never going to get a barrel on her. The Sion just shoves it in lane over and over again. And they really preyed on the tendencies of LGD's draft. They took away their globals, put them in a very bad bottom lane, and just snowballed off of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the stylistic matchup a little bit more in those regards. The fact that Vici were allowed to dictate the tempo, that it was 5 players on LGD, not one collective team, but 5 players that Vici had to play against. And that's easy. That's effectively going up with your 5-man professional team into what seems like a solo queue match, where it's just like, oh, these 5 guys, they don't really know what they're doing.
And LGD really have to turn the page. They need to find some new strategies for what they want to do. Put more emphasis in the bot lane or something, because, you know, Imp is not a very bad Varus. He can play those champions. You can give him a winning lane and try to snowball from there, not bomb your lane. And then
the entire time it was going through the draft, I was like, you know what? They're banning Bard. They're banning Taric. They already first picked Braum. It's got to be Kog'Maw. Imp is going to go back to the Kog'Maw. The hyper carry, he's going to do it, I believe. And then Ezreal, it didn't seem like it made sense. But if they feel that's what works for them, and again, it has to come back to how they feel coming into this game. Because again, they're playing in their home venue. We've actually got that Baron fight for you real quick. And you can take a look at the fight and see that LGD, they look like they're ready to fight this, but Vici are just moving as a more collective unit.
Yeah, and LGD are actually in a better position because they're forcing Vici up into a choke. However, LGD blow their things way too early. The shockwave goes up only on Sion, and also Jinwoo comes in the fight very, very late. So if they wanted that fight, they should have backed up a little bit more, held on to their big abilities, and then cast him. So a bit early on the trigger, and what's important about that fight is how late Jinwoo was actually into it.
He had to teleport.
He didn't come in at all. So there's definitely communications issues on that team. And like Frost said, like my prediction, I think this is the best matchup Vici can possibly get in the set. And if LGD want to come back, I think they will have to go into like maybe a better scaling comp, a team fight composition that can go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can pull their cohesion together. MVP for that game 1, our man of the match, goes to Swift. No surprise, off of a huge performance. 6-1 and 4. He missed out on a single kill the entire game.
And I just really like these players where you can see them playing assassins in team fights. In the very last fight, able to pick up 2 kills with his Kha'Zix and skip out with a sliver of health. That's really something that only the top level of junglers can do.
Yeah, there's so many times in the LPL where you see a Kha'Zix picked and then it just kind of flanks around, hangs out in the wings, doesn't exactly engage into the fight.
It doesn't have E, it has W.
You're exactly right.
That's kind of the Kha'Zix we see most of the time.
That's not Swift's MO. He's going to kill you before you get into the 5-man siege. He's going to use his vision to sort of pick you apart so that the siege doesn't even become feasible in the first place. But still, big commendations to Vici to turn that around. Still, we do have to look a little bit towards the likes of EasyHoon. It seemed like he wasn't quite there as much as we wanted him to be during that original laning phase. But if this Vici can repeat their performance against LGD, LGD fans might be getting a little concerned.
Oh, they should be, because I think Vici is going to take this series. They are on an upward trend, and I think Swift has been working out very well for him. Shores up that early game, pick a late game teamfight composition, and you got your script completely written.
Yeah, well, the page is already all set up. We'll have to see if the book follows through. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break while we get ready for game 2. Don't go anywhere.